What's up? What's up? Thanks for having me, Doobyis. So Winnipeg is my home base. I'm from Saskatoon, but I actually spent most of the 2010s living in Ottawa. Yeah, so I've been around a little bit, but I've been in Winnipeg since 2020, to give you a timeline.
Okay, nice, man. So you've been putting out a lot of music lately, dude. I checked in and listened to a few of your albums today. The names are escaping me off the top of my head. I'm gonna have to bring up Spotify and look at them. But what was the most recent album you dropped, dude?
That one is Gazogene with me and Rob Crooks, actually, a collaborative project.
Right. Yeah. Okay. Dope. So that was there a single off of that? What was the single? I feel like I played something from that. Was that Nudie Suits or?
No, Nudie Suit, that's from my album Grim Errands. So that's my last solo rap album, is Grim Errands.
Okay.
That's getting to be a little bit old now, but...
Sure, yeah. And then the most recent release that I've seen from you solo was that Can't Sleep track, right?
Yeah, so that's something that's going to be on my next album.
Okay, nice, man.
Yeah.
I'm fucking shit up here. Just a sec. Sorry, it's tough running the podcast while also... trying to produce the podcast. I have Spotify on screen and I'm not supposed to. It's fuck Spotify. But when I opened the window, it popped up on screen.
Fair, yeah. I don't endorse.
Yeah, no, I noticed that you put your music to Bandcamp before it goes to Spotify, right?
Yeah, pretty much all the time. With the last two singles, I've tried to do a bit more of a traditional approach and putting it on streaming a little bit earlier, but yeah, usually streaming can come when it comes,
Yeah, man, for sure. I mean, I think that's a good strategy. A lot of people are kind of doing the pre-release or like official release to Bandcamp and let that breathe for a month or a few and then swapping over to Spotify because, yeah, nobody's paid enough by Spotify or paid anything at all by Spotify for that matter.
Yeah, I'm in agreement there.
Yeah, man, for sure. So, dude, I wanted to ask you just kind of off the bat, for people who don't know your music, like... How would you describe your sound?
It's difficult because I can come with a couple different looks every now and again, but I would say experimental hip hop covers it if you want like a Bandcamp hashtag to search or that sort of thing.
Right.
But I'm definitely informed by a lot of left field hip hop production, especially like stuff out of Saskatchewan, Side Road Records, Close Horse Records. So there's that influence of like a more alternative approach to the samples you're choosing and stuff like that.
Right.
But I also really grew up in the time when Southern rap was finally getting its shine. So I have a real strong influence from Southern rap as well, especially like Memphis and that darker sound. And so all of that comes along with my background playing in like hardcore bands.
Okay.
So there's that harder element that I'm really kind of embracing a bit more, I think. Not necessarily for people that don't know, like not necessarily screaming or doing like trap metal. I wouldn't say that's what I'm doing. It comes through in different ways, mostly just in the delivery.
Is that a thing, trap metal? I've never even imagined that crossover. Okay.
Yeah, I couldn't really name you names. It's kind of one of those things I've come across just on TikTok or just seeing on the feed type deal.
Yeah, man. So are you still playing in bands then? Like, are you still actively in a band right now?
Yeah, we haven't had like a public debut yet, but this will be my first band in Winnipeg. So we've been going at it since January, finally like just got a set down. Yeah, so playing in like a hardcore kind of band.
Nice. Okay. So, man, that must be a lot of music here. Because is like, do you have an album coming up soon? I figured since Can't Sleep was recently released, there's probably an album coming soon, or?
Yeah, in the fall, maybe early winter, but definitely in 2024, my goal is to get that one out.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, definitely lots of music. So in the hardcore band, I'm playing drums. So not really, I mean, it's thinking in the same vein as production wise, but it's not like I'm writing 2 sets of lyrics and deciding
Right.
which one goes where or whatever like that.
Yeah, and you do all your own production for your music, other than that Rob Crooks album, right? That's I saw you say on Bandcamp that's the first one you've done on somebody else's beats.
Yeah.
How did you get into hip hop? Was it like, you know, I think a lot of MCs enter by kind of like rapping on other people's beats on like YouTube or whatever, right? Like, and kind of do some little mixtape stuff that way with the stolen beats or whatever. But did you bypass that and go straight to producing your own beats?
Yeah, I've really, until I did 2 random singles with other people, Olivia Bigelow, a producer from Salt Lake City, and Ren Noir, who's based in Scotland. Okay. So I did 2 little tracks before that project with Rob. But everything up to that point under Kitz Willman is definitely self-produced. But I started rapping like in high school, and that like making beats was what led to rapping, if that makes sense. Like I initially was using just like where you could type in Microsoft Sam to like get vocals on like the beats I was making. So
wait, you're gonna have to explain that more. Microsoft Sam, is that a program? What is it? What are we talking about?
It's like a proto Siri. It's like the computer voice from Microsoft. There's like a man one, a woman one. So Microsoft Sam. It was an option on FL Studio, so where like you could like
the original AI voice. It would read what you're typing.
Yeah, so that wasn't me like typing in raps. It would just be like a silly hook or whatever. Okay. So then that transitioned to like, okay, now I know how to use a headset mic to record, and I'm gonna start rapping on these beats. And then that really took my production to the next level in the early stage. And then I really took a few years off. And then kind of one day was like, I was really depressed and I was trying to get myself out of it. And so I made an album in a week. Like I made a challenge to myself, and I was like, oh yeah, like I used to make beats. Like, why don't I just get a program again and make beats again? Yeah. You know? Yeah, so it started with being on GarageBand on the iPad and just doing stuff in there, and then going back to FL Studio again. So that's the main place I'm making my beats.
Nice, man. That's powerful to like pull yourself out of depression with art like that. I mean, I've done that myself. I've talked to other people who talk about doing that. You know, my homie DJ Dice was just talking about how, like, you know, he's got to get back to using the force, he was calling it, to just making beats all the time and just like constantly kind of re-submerge himself in music. Because yeah, man, I think a lot of like artists' souls just don't really feel complete unless we're creating music in some way or creating something, you know. But yeah, man, it's has it worked? Are you feeling happier with life these days making music?
Yeah, you know, it comes and goes. Like I just came off this tour out in Ontario, and so sometimes, and I'm sure you relate to this, it can even happen with one show, but you do something like that and then you kind of come back and it feels like, even though you just did such a huge drive, it's kind of like, oh, the momentum. Sometimes it's like if you score right at the end of the game to take it into overtime, then you go in overtime and the other team just nets one on you because they were going to bounce back anyways. You know, it's the inverse of that, being on the losing side and coming back and being like, all right, what stepping stones did I lay out before I went on tour so that I know I will have like milestones to keep reaching for? You know what I mean?
For real.
So what I'm trying to say is like being more in touch with that process and being aware that, hey, I'm going to feel this way when I come back from this project, or release day, how you can like be a bit of a mess on release day, stuff like that. You know, maybe not putting the album out on a day you have no other plans, you know? So figuring out like not just making the music, but also making the project of music be something where it's there for me to do, like it's an obligation and a responsibility.
Yeah, and that's I think something a lot of artists struggle with. Like I feel like there's a lot of artists sitting on a vault full of music, and that's the part that they like doing, but the promotion and rollout and all the planning and all that other stuff, it can be daunting, you know. Like I feel like a lot of people, shit, myself included, I've been sitting on an EP for a long time that I keep thinking I'll put out eventually here, but like, you know, it's just like, that's not the fun side of the art. Do Do you enjoy doing that type of stuff, like the promotional side of it or the kind of organizational side of it, business side?
Yeah, I wouldn't say enjoy per se. I'm not like
Yeah.
the way I'm getting hype, writing a verse, not the same thing when I'm like, oh yeah, I posted that story at a good time
Yeah.
to make sure that I would get engagement and it would hit the, the morning crowd, the lunch crowd. But I
Yeah.
really do think about that stuff. Like I came up when it was MySpace. That's where you promoted your music. So
Right.
when people talk about creating a relationship to social media in the last, 5, 6 years, I really don't relate to that
Yeah.
because it's something that's always been there. And especially, I think there was a benefit of that process existing through bands more early on, even though I played in bands for 2 years and then I was rapping also. So there wasn't too much gap between that. But being like one member in a band kind of took away the worry about the ego or whatever of being like, oh, I'm taking selfies. So having that kind of separation maybe allowed me to, in more recent years, like be like, okay, yeah, I'm doing this again. It is me, but it's also not at the same time.
Yeah.
And
there's a way to promote where you can have some level of authenticity, though, for sure.
Yeah, exactly. And embracing these things, not being scared of them, knowing that I might try it and the tool doesn't work.
Right.
Oh, the soil is much too hard for just a hand trowel. Like I've got to get some bigger tools or I've got to reevaluate altogether,
Yeah, man. So you mentioned like that you had just done a tour through Ontario. How many stops did you make there?
I should know off the top of my head. 7 shows.
Okay.
I think it was.
That ballpark.
Yeah, we started in Manitoba. So we started in Winnipeg, then Kenora, then Wawa, then Montreal, Hamilton, Toronto, Ottawa. Yeah, 7 shows.
Nice, man. So who are you touring with?
Think Tank. It was me and Think Tank.
Okay.
That's a hip hop crew from Regina.
Dope, man. I was gonna ask, like, do you end up doing a lot of shows with like, bands? Because even just listening to your music, you can hear a lot of the influence from, there's a lot of guitar samples. There's a lot of kind of rock vibe to it, I guess. Tough to sum it up exactly. But do you end up doing like more kind of hip hop leaning shows, or like who do you perform with most of the time, man?
So when I was first rapping, it was exclusively at like the pop punk show or whatever show was light enough that none of my bands needed to be on the bill and like I could rap on it basically. And I also would perform with like Volcanoless in Canada. There was someone who would have me out. They were like a band with 3 acoustic guitars.
Okay.
But with Kitz Willman, I've only really done one show that wasn't with hip hop acts. And was with bands, and that was just one band, Macro Doser, which is some like the oldest collaborator of mine from my very first band. It's his current band. So we did a show in Saskatoon, kind of to test the water of like, this used to come across one way in the early 2000s or late 2000s. How is this going to be received nowadays? And I really would like to do it more, honestly, just because hardcore music has never been as vibrant as it is right now. Local scenes everywhere, like it's like, wow, people are packing it out. And I would love to get in front of that audience, maybe, especially having that harder edge and knowing like I can do a set where I lean into that.
Yeah, for
exactly.
Sure. You've got some music that's like made to rattle the trunk for sure. Like, I think before the stream here, I played something. It had trunk in the name, the title of it or whatever.
Oh, Trunk Function.
Yeah, Trunk Function. Yeah, right.
Yeah. So that was the last one on Grim Errands, and that was a real purposeful. I want to make a song that's like a blatant homage to that Memphis Southern influence.
Right.
Not going full on in the like funk kind of trend that's taking over now.
Yeah.
But doing something that's a little bit more on the surface.
Nice, man. So drawing influences from all over the place, like what are you listening to on a regular basis these days? Do you listen to more hip hop stuff, or, and for that matter, like, do you listen to mainstream hip hop? Like, listening to your stuff, I was like, I wonder, you know, are you only listening to like Saskatoon folk rap records guys, or like,
yeah,
do you cross over and listen to, you know, kind of more mainstream stuff?
Yeah, well, I kind of am like the type of person where I'm listening to one rapper for long stretches of time. So for the last while, it's been Billy Woods.
Okay. Yeah.
Billy Woods is like, he's my favorite rapper circa 2019 or 2018, whenever I first heard of him around Hiding Places. So that's the answer to what hip hop do I listen to. It means Arm & Hammer, his other projects, listening to other things on Backwoods a little bit, but really like I'm just listening to Billy Woods. Though recently, Not Like Us, I've been bumping that tab's been open, and I've been tuning into Kendrick a little bit. So after this, I'm going to visit with a buddy that I went to London with for the first time, right when Damn came out. So I know seeing him is going to bring that album back to me. So I'm looking forward to getting back into Kendrick on a little more of a full scale.
Nice.
But I'm not, I used to really, in the maybe like 2-3 years ago, it really was only rap I was listening to. But more recently, I've gotten, I think being out on the road, I got back a bit more into country and like kind of, I don't know, some more rock sort of stuff. Like Corb Lund is one of my favorites. He's from Alberta, down south near you. And I actually cover him in my set pretty routinely. So
dope, man.
Those non-hip hop influences are obviously inspiring production, samples, stuff like that.
You mean like you play entire Corb Lund songs during your set? Like you're covering Corb Lund straight out? That's awesome, man.
Yeah. I've covered a couple other country singers like Blaze Foley and John Prine on record, actually, but this Corb song I've only done in live sets.
Nice, man. So I wanted to ask a little bit about like, you know, you put a lot of political commentary into your stuff. Like, I was listening to an album from 2023 and you were talking about like, you know, Ukraine's been going on for 3 years, and a lot of it was kind of even more like spoken word style, you know, like do you do spoken word jams ever, like poetry slams or anything like that? Okay.
No, I've never just done poetry like that.
Yeah, weird, man. Yeah. The new single, the Can't Sleep track, is definitely like more kind of like rapidy rapping, you know. You're definitely like, you got some bars on there or whatever. And I really dug that track, man. I played it on Atsic and everything, but I did want to ask you, like, there's a sample on there on the hook that sounds like a child's voice, or like, I don't know, somebody saying like, that's the moon and that's my favorite moon, or something along those lines. And it made me think, like, is this a meme that I don't recognize, or like where, don't snitch on yourself if it's like, you know, some secret sample that you don't want to tell anybody about, but who was that? Was that somebody you know, or like what the fuck was going on there?
Man, I definitely am. I will say, because you brought it up, I'm against sample snitching. No sample snitching, but things like that. Like I mean, for the purposes of why we're talking about this stuff, I'm making that song and I have that part, and it sat empty for a long time, and I was like, hey, I'd like to have a sample here. And I'm like thinking of movies. I don't know, is there like some moon thing? And I literally went on YouTube and I searched like full moon. And then a thing I really like to do for YouTube searching is like change the date and put it to like last 24 hours or whatever.
Okay.
And so it's just like this dad filming the moon, some YouTube video.
So okay, so it is like some random meme or whatever. Yeah, okay, that's cool, man. Yeah. In
the past, I have done that process, and because people re-upload things or things show up with weird titles, I have put a popular YouTuber or something in a song, right? And I wanted it for the content, but I didn't realize it would be recognized by people. And actually, Olivia, who produced for me, she was like, blah, 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 that's so-and-so. And I was like, oh, I just wanted what they said.
Yeah. I mean, on one hand, like, it's good if people can hear it and be like, oh, that's that meme he's referencing, maybe. But then, yeah, you don't want it to be too obvious or whatever. I only asked because I halfway thought, like, maybe it was like your little daughter or something saying it, or like, somebody you knew that you got to say it. But
no, I definitely would. I had a hook back in my high school days that my little cousin living in Saskatoon, I got him to say that and just like chopped it up, looped it up. So definitely that's in the toolkit.
Nice, man. I wanted to ask you too about the track that you dropped recently with Steven Hero. I think it's called like Big Wheel Slammer or something like that.
Yeah, Big Steel Slammers.
Yeah,
like Pogs.
Pog style.
Steven
yeah,
brings it up.
Yeah, it made me think of Pog. Yeah, for sure. How did that come together? Have you met Steven Hero in person?
Man, that's actually someone I connected with through TikTok, talking about social media and promoting and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Just going on there and trying to like cultivate an algorithm and a connection base that's like Canadian hip hop. Yeah. He's someone out, and for people who don't know, he's in St. John, New Brunswick. Death to fucking Arthur Irving. I know Steven's hyped about that. I don't know if he's going to listen to this, but the oligarch of that province just died. So who knows what's going to happen. Anyways,
isn't the guy out there named something different? He's always saying "fuck you" to
the mayor, Blaine Higgs.
Or yeah. The mayor of Lethbridge is named Blaine Higgins. So
okay, yeah.
Every time I hear him say it, well, I know it's like the premier out there or whatever, so it's at a higher level than just the mayor. But I don't like Blaine Higgins either. So fuck anybody named Blaine with an H as their last name, I guess. But,
exactly.
Yeah, man.
But yeah, so we just connected online, and he asked me if I'd want to do the verse on it. I was like, hell yeah. And yeah, it was real quick and easy process. He was super great to work with. I'd love to get out there and do some shows. Like, they've really got a scene that they're cultivating. You can tell, the handful of names he has to draw upon, where he's like, I vouch for all these people. It's really great. So yeah, super, super great to work with him. And
yeah, he's a good dude. I got a chance to interview him, and I think we talked for almost 2 hours, man. Like, he was just easy to talk to, and seemed like a good guy or whatever. But
I watched that one.
Yeah. Oh, nice, dude. Yeah. Can I ask you, how are you finding TikTok? Because honestly, like, of the platforms, like, I'm throwing clips up. I throw the same clips onto IG and TikTok constantly. And on IG, the comment sections are full of different hip hop people. I don't get a lot of response from anybody who's, just a casual lover of hip hop who wants to enjoy music. But the comment sections are always full of various different artists from across the country chiming in on stuff. But on TikTok, like, a lot of those guys don't even have TikTok. I can't find a lot of traction on TikTok. I'm gonna keep posting over there because it's easy enough to post to 2 different platforms just back to back or whatever. But like, because you mentioned trying to cultivate like a Canadian hip-hop community over there, and it's like, do you think it's possible? Like, what the hell is going on TikTok? I feel like nobody's over there.
Well, I would say TikTok has been the best outlet I've ever used as far as social media is concerned, and even counting like Bandcamp and things like that, but it hasn't as much been for my rap. So one of the things you probably listened to was Saskadoomy, which is an album I made during the pandemic, and that is like not rap, it's like post-hardcore jazz and me doing my versions of old Ukrainian songs.
Yeah, so that was what I was listening to at the gym today, and I was like, I wonder what this guy calls his music. Like, is this hip hop I'm listening to? Like, kinda, but
So yeah, that's a total outlier. I did it in 2020, and just like I was making the songs, and then I'd make a music video. I'd make it in one day for me and my partner to like watch and listen to that night. And I made it like very quickly under the influence of some certain things.
Yeah.
And I just because of how I enjoy the informality of TikTok, I just uploaded it to the internal TikTok music database. The same thing I did as a way of releasing Grim Errands. I first put it on TikTok and didn't put it, and then I put it on streaming next, and then actually Bandcamp last, and then the CD version very last. So I was experimenting with like putting stuff on DistroKid, but only sending it to TikTok.
Right.
And so I put up the Saskadoomy album, and one part from one of the songs got super popular on there. And I, you know, I'm saying super popular. I'm maxing out at like 1,400 monthly listeners on Spotify, things like that. Getting video
that's pretty good numbers for a Canadian artist still, man.
Oh,
shit, yeah.
Totally. And so part of me is like, oh shit, like this isn't my rap. This is like really what I want to be rapping.
Yeah.
I don't really want to be, like I said earlier, I'm not screaming or whatever. On that album, I am screaming and improvising and reading right out of a book and stealing lyrics and stuff like that, or using old songs. And so when I just went on tour, there was people who came and they're like fans of that. But they're there at a hip hop show right now, you know? And like, yeah, I played a show in Saskatoon last summer in August, that show with Macrodoser, the metal band.
That's an awesome name. I like that.
Yeah. And I was like, I'm going to try this song live and see, because it's like the instrumental is me like playing drums and stuff like that. So I like did it at a show, and someone came up to me and was like, you started playing that song, and then I recognized it off TikTok. So like, that's the kind of experience I've had. And I also have had songs or videos with like my straight up rap songs get like 50 to 40,000 views. And that's by like focusing on particular lyrics. Or a thing that really worked for me for a bit was like putting my lyrics up, but then marking the rhyme scheme.
Okay. Like and color coding it or something like that?
Yeah,
yeah. Okay.
So then part of it is people being like, this is bad. Oh, you thought you did something with this, because I'm rapping in a like different style, you know?
Right.
If Billy Woods was uploading on TikTok, he would get just as much hate as he gets love. You know what I mean? Same for a lot of the rappers that we know and love, regardless of how big or popular they are.
Hate engagement is still engagement, and if anything, it's going to make that algorithm push it to more people or whatever, dude. So yeah, if you're pissing people off, you're probably doing something right. I mean, you want to be careful with TikTok though, because you hear about people who do like, you know, they have the huge blow up song on TikTok, and then they're out and they're performing to some stadium someplace for their first show, and like everybody only knows the like 8 seconds of TikTok song or whatever, you know, like I'm rolling in the deep or whatever the fuck that song was back in the day. Like, yeah, man.
So I've really slowed down on it, I would say.
Right.
But talking about like, do you enjoy the promotion side? Like, I definitely am feeling I got to get back on TikTok. People came to the show in Montreal. People came to the show in Toronto and Hamilton because of this app. Like, the people who put the show on in Ottawa, where we rapped in a boxing ring, they're fans from TikTok and reached out to me to do the show.
Did you have like crowd on all four sides of you rapping in the boxing ring, or how?
Just at the front.
Okay.
And dude, it was so goddamn funny. I'm in the middle of like a more serious verse, and just in my head, I'm like, all right, I'm going for it. I fly against the ropes. Dude, I was like going up against the ropes, like hold me back, like rap to the crowd type shit. Dude, it was so funny, and a great like end to the tour.
Yeah.
Like I said, I used to live in Ottawa, so it was like seeing some old friends and stuff too.
I don't know if you're a wrestling fan or not, but I definitely would have gotten up on the turnbuckles and rapped like standing halfway up on the turnbuckles like I was Stone Cold Steve Austin or whatever, man. That would have had to happen.
Boxing ring, there's no turnbuckles. I was disappointed. And I also was like, are they going to be offended that if I treat it like a wrestling ring?
Yeah. Can you bounce off the ropes? Like, is it the same type of ropes? Okay.
Oh, yeah. I was flying off them. Yeah. A little too hard. I hit the wall on one end.
Damn, man. So I noticed you were also part of a recent drop that it's like the Serafez. I don't know how it's supposed to be pronounced. Serafez?
Safer Easy, I think.
Safer Easy. Okay. Of course that's how that's pronounced. Yeah, looking at it now, yeah, right. Can you tell me like about that a little bit? Like I recognized a lot of the different MCs on it, you know, Epic and ID Bliss and I don't know, various other guys. I'd have to look at the list again, but a lot of guys who have played on ATSIC over the years. Who put that together? I think Nolto was behind it or something.
No, Dren is the producer, and then Id Obelisk from somewhere in the States, in Indianapolis, maybe.
Yeah, maybe.
Somewhere southish from here.
He raps with a bunch of prairie rappers a lot of the time. So
yeah,
I'm
totally. So
with them,
it's like his record, and then there's a bunch of people that help collaborate. Really cool project. It's like based on this one record by a band from like his hometown or something. That's like, I guess like a prog band from the 70s or something. So that's like what it samples. And so in my verse, I like went and just looked at the lyrics from the album and like used some lyrics and stuff like that. And kind of unintentionally did like I'm forgetting what the album is. Lyrics, where they're rapping two different verses. You know what I'm talking about?
No.
And it's like
at the same time, simultaneously.
Yeah.
Okay.
Two different rappers, but they're rapping in like both sides of the headphones. And for one part, I like recorded two parts. And I was like, kind of like, this is the one, but like, here's like both these things. Because why not? I don't know what you're gonna do.
Push the boundaries, man.
and so Dren did that in one part, which still trips me out. I can't wrap my head around it, but definitely leaned into the like psychedelic side of stuff, which was cool to hear. That's one thing when you produce yourself all the time, you don't hear those like things that might be kind of surprising or unexpected or whatever as much.
Right. Yeah. Well, another cook taking over the cooking of the song or whatever can definitely give it different flavor, man. Can we talk about recording? Like I see your I don't know what the hell those things are called, the acoustic shield. I'm familiar with those purple ones. I've used one of those before. Do you obviously record right there in your home studio?
Yeah, right in this place. The mic would be like maybe like here.
Nice, man.
Going for it. Yeah.
One thing I like to ask producers who are also MCs is like, as you're making the beat, are you writing, or do you make a beat completely and like put them all in the vault, and then when it's time to sit down and write lyrics, pull a few out and write to them? Or like you've already mentioned, you tend to work pretty quickly on a lot of these projects, it sounds like, anyways. How does the process go normally?
I would say the songs that are the easiest and are usually my favorite are ones where there's a bit of an idea for probably like the hook or something, and then the song's gonna service that, like when I go to make the beat. But a lot of the time it kind of is like I make beats within FL Studio, and then I actually compose them in Audacity. Audacity army of stand up. So I have like, again, like this kind of different relationship with my beats depending on the process. So like the last two singles, Can't Sleep and Brain, those are ones where it's like, here's the idea for the song and I'm going to make it. Like I want to do this whole idea and all in one shot. Usually that revolves around a sample of some sort.
Right.
Again, or like if the hook is rhythmic, like Can't Sleep on the Full Moon, that was the part that I had. And let me make a beat. So this is the tempo and everything like that. But then likely it'd be like I'd get the beat going. And then once I have a verse, that's enough motivation to then like compose the beat to start recording. If that makes sense?
Yeah.
So there really is like this kind of column A, column B, maybe not at the exact same time.
Sure.
But one thing has to happen for the other part to like go to the next level.
That's cool, man. Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you tend to work alone? Like, are you, 2 a.m. in the morning sitting there working on new music, or like, do you like having people around kind of as you're working on stuff?
Really, on my own. I don't know if I've ever, other than the very, very first rap song I made with like two of my friends, I don't know if I've ever really written something. Like I recorded a feature with Epic and Rob for an album they have. Oh, I can't remember what it's called right now.
He announced that album on Fly in Formation, and I'm drawing the blank. It's like Greenwich Village something, or isn't it named after the place they recorded it? Osborne Village. Yeah. Okay, yeah.
I think they changed it to Nassau Manor, which is the building Rob used to live in. Anyways,
right, yeah. But he discussed that with me too, that he was gonna change it. Yeah.
So like they asked me to come record, and whether like I knew that Epic was coming to Winnipeg. So is it happenstance that I had wrote a verse already that morning? You know.
Just so happens I have this ready.
Exactly. So like I'll have things on deck, or I'll have ideas. Like there's songs I'm working on every day, kind of just here's the idea. Okay, like this is how I'm gonna action on that. So that's usually the ones where it all comes together, you know, especially if I've been driving and there's a sample I keep hearing. That's a super common, like the Grim Aaron's title track. I was listening to this album for like 4 days, living in my van, got to Halifax, was in a hotel, sampled that part, made the beat. That's like concept, intro, title track song, you know? Nice. So sometimes those songs can be really directive, whereas Can't Sleep is like the last song I made for this album. So the whole concept's there. That kind of helps the process come together. You know what I mean?
For real, dude. Something I like asking everybody, because I get answers all over the board, is like, how famous are you trying to be? What does success look like for you? You know, like, because I feel like a lot of people kind of are chasing that they want to be the next Drake, and then there's other people who are just making art for the sake of making art, and they don't really give a fuck if anybody likes it. I feel like you are probably someplace in the middle after what you've said about kind of the promotional side of things, because a lot of a lot of guys can't be bothered with promotion, I feel like.
I mean, I would love to have the notoriety necessary to just like put my name and people will be there type thing.
The Kendrick Lamar disappear for 4 years and come back with a new album.
Well, maybe not even necessarily to that level, but like a publication, it's a no-brainer that you're going to cover this or whatever. So I don't really know what that means exactly. Like I think the goalposts are always shifting. If I'm in a band, like I want it to be a band that people are asking the promoter in their city, bring this person here, you know, like a festival announces their lineup and they're like, where's this person? And I can think that for like hardcore, but with hip hop, especially in Canada, like what actually is success? You have to ask every individual person, and they're going to tell you, you know, this is what Mickey O'Brien thinks, and this is what Cartel Madras thinks. And they're a lot closer to each other than they are far apart. And I'm just naming those two as examples of people who I'm like looking to see, hey, where do they play? What are they doing? What do the steps look like? And there's unfortunately not that many examples. So
like Mickey O'Brien is definitely a very blue collar guy who, you know, when I talked to him, told me he's very content to make his money in the mine and then, you know, be able to take time off because he can afford to do that, and, you know, travel wherever he wants to perform his music and kind of do it as like a side gig more so than as like something he's trying to pay the bills with. Is that kind of your approach to it?
Yeah, definitely. Like I have a job that's I do a tour when I don't have to do job type thing. I'm not like I can't take time off work basically to just do this stuff. So a long weekend or whatever, stuff like that. I try to make it work then. But I don't know. Yeah, I think the way like Mickey talks about it, I would say like more or less I kind of think the same way. Like especially the traveling thing, like seeing him go to Japan or like this thing he's got coming up in Europe, like that's what I want to do.
That's some inspirational shit, man. I thought the same thing. Like, I was like, look at him go. He's just fucking going over to Japan. All right.
Man, and here's the thing. You go to Japan and you play a show that, like, you play a Kitz Willman show in Japan. I don't know what that looks like until I make it happen. I didn't know what a Kitz Willman Montreal show looked like. I did know Toronto and I did know Ottawa. Like, obviously I lived out there. I played these places, but I just had never played Montreal. And it's like, okay, there's a dude with an Uggsmag hat in the fucking crowd. Like, I'm doing something right and letting people know, like, here's the beacon for Canadian hip hop.
Yeah.
And it used to be you go to Europe and they're obsessed with that. And Nalto K, they went to Japan. Like these, like Mickey's rehashing things that I've seen to already exist. And it's like, man, I'm looking like straight up. He's probably not going to listen to this, but I'm looking at his Instagram when I'm like, what venue?
Yeah.
The venue just told me they can't do the show anymore in Toronto. And I'm like, I know I already looked at Mickey's page when I was contacting venues in the first place, but I'm like, I'm going there again to see who do I reach out to maybe save our asses, you know? And for the record, it was a house show and it was awesome.
That's so valuable though, to know different artists across the country, even if you don't know them personally, just to observe, like you said, what they're doing and soak up game like that. I feel like a lot of people just completely underutilize social media for that. And it was like kind of what started me down this whole path to doing these interviews and like really trying to tap in and pick people's brains on like, how the fuck are you doing this, you know? But at the same time, it's like spread the word to as many people as we can, because everybody should know about all these dope artists. You know, there's so much music coming out every week that like just gets completely slept on and missed. Dude, can I ask you, so as somebody who's been in bands and like done that kind of grind, like you said your new band you haven't really launched, but like, did you tour with a band and actually like put in time in a band? Okay. So then, as somebody who's done kind of both worlds between hip hop and like punk or rock or whatever, hardcore, is there any money in either of them? Like, is there a way to make money easier from one or the other? Because I've known a lot of guys in bands and they always complain about how expensive it is to tour because there's so many people and you got to split all the money. And but then I've talked to a lot of hip hop people who just tell me like, you're not making any money off of fucking rapping, you know? Any comparison between the two?
Well, for me, when I toured, it was like more than 10 years ago. So I'm working like literally my first job out of high school. I'm working kitchen, you know, getting tips, but like I'm prepping at Earl's. So it was like money's going to merch, money's going to the van, money's going to buying these big cymbals that I tend to crack and stuff like that. So there's different continuous expenses, but I mean, sharing that burden over 4 or 5 people. Like I just recently in the last year, like got my first shirt orders for Kitz Willman, and it's like, damn, I remember this being not this expensive. And obviously things have changed over time. And we used to have like merch deals and stuff like that. So we'd get cheaper blanks or whatever. But man, like, yeah, that's a heavy weight. But I will say, like, because I have this recent tour, did I lose money? Yeah, but it wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be. It's like split between me and Think Tank, or even if I'm covering it myself, like it's not that bad.
Nice.
A couple more nights where I know someone and I can stay with them and not get a hotel. And gas was absurdly expensive in some places for just that time period. So a couple different factors. And then, like we get a few more people out at this show or that show, and easily that deficit is erased. And that's not counting my own personal merch. That's just like the cost of van and arrangements and then the shows type deal. If I count what I did on merch, I'm not losing any money on that tour. But obviously I invested the money at a different stage, right? So that's kind of, I think, what it means to like be a bit of a, like Mickey would say, a working class musician. But thinking of those things as you're constantly rolling the investment, you know, spending $100 to fill the tank to get to Montreal or whatever, like to get to the next show. That's an easy investment to make in yourself, right?
For real. But I hear you on, you know, when there's a band and you need to order t-shirts, everybody can chip in $150 and you've got a lot of t-shirts, whereas a little bit of a different grind. Do you press your albums? Like, have you got vinyl for anything, or
no vinyl?
What do you do for physicals?
I've got CDs. I have appeared on vinyl on other people's things like the Safer Easy and stuff like that.
Right.
But only CDs myself, and then I've had a label in Europe, Pen Thief Records, do some cassettes for me as well.
Okay, yeah, I've heard of Pen Thief Records. They're based in like
Berlin.
Berlin? Yeah, right. Okay.
Yeah. Shout out Nablonsky.
Yeah, right. He's a producer who also runs
Yeah.
that label, right? Okay.
Exactly.
Dude, can I ask you just kind of straight up, who's your target audience? Do you ever think about who you're trying to get music to?
Man, the Billy Woods fans.
Nice.
Not that I think I sound like Billy Woods or I'm as good as Billy Woods or anything like that, but I'm like, man, I've contacted Billy Woods' booking agent to see like, man, can I just bring Billy Woods to Western Canada so he stops doing these MTV tours, Montreal, Toronto, Vancouver, and like comes to the places where we can maybe tap into a crowd that like is waiting to be tapped. You know, like the shows that used to happen in Saskatoon that I hear about from chaps and stuff like that. It's like we're at a stage in hip hop right now where I know people are as obsessed with Billy Woods as I am, or as obsessed with like Kim Ordle, or just as obsessed with anyone you want to name who's like bubbling at that level.
Yeah.
In Canada or America. Like even the Canadian ones, like they aren't coming out here unless they're from here. And even then, you know, I'm not seeing Super Duty Tough Work like at the local show.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, man. And that's important to get out and support community like that or whatever. What's I normally ask this at the end, but can you describe the Winnipeg hip hop scene?
Well, I mean, I'm still like getting a feel for it. I feel like stuff like that I would compare to like how a blind person experiences certain things. Like if they want to feel something to get a bigger idea, especially someone who like wasn't always without vision.
Yeah.
And it's like you got to do a show and work with people and see. So I think the last show I did was the best show that I've done so far. And so like I'm finding my people more and more. And from that recent show, it would be this crew called 1122. A couple like Mesoamerican guys, like South America, Mexico, indigenous people from there.
Sure.
Light of Moon and Cisse, like, and we played, and I had kind of had my eye on them on social media for a bit and stuff like that. And it's like, that's really still the level I'm at, is seeing what's visible in those spaces. And the shows are far and few between when it comes to like anyone outside of Winnipeg coming here. Like on the 24th next week, we've got a Rap Ferreira show. And like the one person who's opening used to make rap with the main guy in Super Duty Tough Work. So
Okay.
I've never seen him, but I'm that's like kind of predates my Winnipeg time. So looking forward to seeing that. And then the other person, it's their first show. So like
Bit of a wild card then. Who knows?
Yeah, I just keep learning of new people more than anything. And like slowly but surely, like building those connections. I started out obviously knowing like Rob and Gumshoe Strut and Yai and Gruff, like the more peanuts and corn kind of crowd.
Is Yai how I'm supposed to be pronouncing that dude's name? Why?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Yes,
Yai. Okay.
Yeah.
I've never got that one right.
Yeah. But yeah, so obviously those guys are at kind of a different stage. But yeah, I don't know. I'm still figuring it out. Like I only just in the last 2 months finally found some women that rap here that like haven't moved to Toronto or don't not live here anymore, but they're from Winnipeg.
Right.
So like that's something I've really been looking for and being like, man, like there has to be someone. I'm just not learning about the show. Like Lil Xan just played a show here and like 14 people opened that show. And I'm like, okay, who are all these people? Let me see what's going on here. There's this big like
probably two of them are worth hearing, or
I mean, there a lot of them are rapping over their vocals just like Lil Xan, which is you know that really kind of cuts a line in the crowd a lot of the time, for sure, for me at least.
Yeah, man, me as well, for sure. Actually, that leads into, does hip hop need gatekeepers? Should there be somebody declaring who's whack and who's not? And I don't mean like one person, but just like as a general consensus. is there kind of a right and a wrong way to make hip hop?
That's interesting. Like, I think part of what you're asking is like, does hip hop need parameters?
Yeah.
And I think so. Like, I mean, I'm not someone who says like you have to go and listen to everything, because I know that I haven't. That's not how I enjoy music. But am I like hyper aware of the lineage of like isosceles and beachcombers and what Factor's doing and what Clothes Horse is doing and So and Katie Aquanaut and all those rappers stretching to Alberta, Cam the Wizard and NATO and all these people. Like, I'm really trying to be aware of that. And the thing is, like, you know, you from that, then you're getting a certain type of like exposure and involvement, being on Third Verse radio show or being on your show, you know, having
being
showing
mentioned
up
in
on
Thoughts from the Rap Nest when you drop something or whatever.
yeah, exactly. And like I'm not on vinyl if not for connecting with those people, like like not hierarchically but timeline wise, like above me, before me, that type of thing, right?
Right.
But at the same time, on tour there was only one show where we played with someone I would call an OG. Like, we played with Lee Reed and Tariq Funk, Mother Tarika, and Hamilton, and DJ Crime One. Every other show was with like people that are younger than us or like same age type deal, type thing. And so I also am finding myself at a stage where like, oh, am I the gatekeeper? if I'm doing shows in Winnipeg and I'm noticing, hey, my show doesn't have women on it and that show doesn't have women on it, women from Winnipeg, then like I'm holding a gate of some sort.
Sure.
And if anything, I got to just make sure people know like that it's open in some way, shape, or form. And that really is just still, you know, interacting with these other people. So I think my experience mostly has been without these gatekeepers for the most part.
Yeah.
And so I do wonder what it would be like with them. And I can only think of it being a little bit better because it's not popping off too crazy right now.
Yeah, I hear you, man. How about, well, here, let's get into, so I do a segment where I just ask how important is this or how important is that. You can answer as briefly or as long-windedly as you like. How important is getting grants for a Canadian artist?
It's not important at all. It's a style of doing music in Canada.
Yeah.
I met with the Manitoba Film and Music Group. I met with like one of their people just before this tour. And I would say I didn't have enough time to fill it out, but I'm still learning like how these things work. So I would say they're not important, but they are a style of doing it.
Yeah. Well, it's certainly helpful if you can get them, but yeah.
Definitely. I mean, yeah.
Yeah, for sure. How important is a good stage show?
Incredibly important. I think hip hop is alive music. It's born out of parties. It's not born out of bedrooms or whatever.
Right.
Not that you can't make bangers or party tracks in your bedroom or songs that pop off live or work on your show in your bedroom. Of course you can do that.
So just to play devil's advocate, because we already mentioned, you know, all these acts that are rapping over their own vocals who would not necessarily be people who, you know, I or a lot of hip hop heads may call like a good stage show if you're up there rapping over top of your studio vocals. And they sell tickets. They're, you know, doing things. So like, yeah, are you sure it's important? Like,
well, here's the thing. I don't think the rapping over your vocals is the be all. That's only one part of the stage show.
Sure.
So there was like the guy who I connected with in Wawa, Occupied. His whole set was over tracks like that, and it was sick, and I was rank into it because it was good. Now I think he doesn't need those, but
sure.
Also, there's like no monitors at the show, and my voice is blown out. So maybe he's onto something. You know, I'm saying that also a little bit devil's advocate as well, but I want to like give those artists credit for being able to still perform well, even though I think one part of their set is holding them back. It's the same thing as someone where it's like, what's the outfit, bro? you just that's what you decided to wear for the show, you know, and that's gonna give me a certain taste in my mouth in the same way as like, oh damn, that I didn't like that lyric, what the hell is that line, you know? So there's a whole host of things. Obviously, I think you would agree there's quite a big hurdle if someone's got the whole track there.
Yeah.
But I mean, you deal with the same thing in other genres. So
if the sound man's super on his game, I will say that I like, you know, just a few weeks ago was at a show where somebody was performing over their vocals, and I didn't hate it because his mic was loud enough that you heard his actual voice, and he was delivering the bars along with the bars that you could also hear in the background, you know? So like there is a level of like, it can be done and you can still flex some skill, but then there's other guys who just kind of like get up there and like take the mic away from their mouth every now and again so that they can breathe and let the vocals go. And there's a way to do it, I guess. But
yeah, I mean, some people have like it lined up on hooks, and some people have very hooky rap.
Yeah.
So it ends up like there's this artist from Vancouver, Kid Filthy. I remember there being not entirely vocals, but there was a lot. And it's like, yeah, but this guy's got a lot of hooks. So I like, you know, I would say no backup vocals, but on the hooks. But so what happens if you have all these hooks, right? Or these essential ad libs, where's the line drawn? And then also I'm self-produced. So obviously I'm making instrumentals.
Yeah.
I also recognize not everyone's, you know, that's not always the case.
Yeah. People record a song and then forget to ask the studio to also give them the stage version of it or whatever. So they're just working with what they have sometimes or whatever. Yeah. How important is making music videos?
I think it's part of the art form. So I would say it's, you know, if the options are like not at all, barely, neutral, I would be like the next step. I would say like somewhat. I just did for Can't Sleep my first like, I would say like real music video. I've done music videos, but this one was like this kid I met at a show, Evan Rivard. He was like, hey, I want to make a music video. And, you know, he had real legit lights and all this sort of stuff. So
nice.
Has that catapulted that song any which way in a different than if I just, you know, posted it? I don't know, but I know that I can say, hey, that's me working with someone who's at a hip hop show, connecting with a local artist and wanting to collaborate.
Oh yeah.
If there's a role,
you never know the results either, right? I was going to say like you were saying with putting stuff up on TikTok, you can't tell what's actually going to go on TikTok. Sometimes some weird sound people like, and they're going to start making videos with it or whatever. Right. Like, so yeah, just putting stuff out there. Maybe the TikTok videos would work better if I had fucking studio lights and a nice cut. I don't know, whoever fucking edits videos or whatever. Like,
well, here's the thing though, I haven't been able to easily post it on TikTok because TikTok's like the music's too long on it, so you can't post the whole video, and I haven't posted it on TikTok.
Well, give it a try and see how it goes, man.
Yeah.
How important is a DJ for a stage show? Do you perform with a DJ?
I had a DJ one time against my will. in Belleville, and dude, it's like, man, this part is the beat is supposed to shine. Why are you scratching the shit out of it?
Oh no.
Now I want to play with a DJ. There's people who have like said they do it. So that's like a style of show I want to experience. But I on tour I kind of surprised myself. I normally it's DJ iPad. And there's one long instrumental or like the backing track. It's like 35 minutes or whatever.
Yeah.
And I had that prepared for tour, and I only stuck to it for one show. And I started going back to what I used to do, which is like, you know, maybe I'd play a suite of songs, 2 or 3, if they're lined up with some beat changes and stuff. And then I'm like talking. And so I think it'd be nice to work with a DJ again, where I'm kind of like, okay, the DJ can queue up something where I'm like, I love to make a 3-song transition set. Yeah. The DJ can work with that just the same as I can.
But he can also tell if you want to stand and talk to the audience about whatever your trip to the venue or whatever you're going to tell them about. He's able to, you know, hit the pause and just keep it from playing on to the next one or whatever. Yeah. Add a little bit more spontaneity to it. Well, this one's fun. How just because recently, the whole beef popped off, and so how important is being able to write a good diss track? You ever done that side of hip hop?
I think it's super important.
Yep.
I think the easiest songs to write are diss tracks. If it's a real diss track, that's easy to write.
Yeah.
Incredibly easy to write.
You actually got hate in your heart for somebody? Yeah. Fuck you, Blaine Higgs.
Totally. I've made diss tracks. Some more, I'll say, lethal than others. Like some kind of more joking, but it's a muscle you've got to flex. And like I said, that I listened to all the Kendrick songs, but that last one, Not Like Us, it's like, man, I'm back listening to Kendrick because of that track. So I mean, that's a real, like, we've got a perfect example right now to talk about, but I've gotten emails about diss tracks I've made, like, hey, it's finally somebody's calling this fucking person out. So they get to people's ear in a different way too, just the same as they get to the pen.
People love drama, man. People love to hear people talk shit. I mean, it just is what it is.
Is this about me? I know it's about your partner, homie. It seemed like it was about you, but yeah, because you're so close.
Well, dude, sometimes as an MC, you gotta listen back to somebody's bars and be like, did this motherfucker just send shots? Like, yeah, especially since I've been talking to all these people. I heard somebody, Javier Escuela, actually, a local dude here in Lethbridge who's dope as fuck. I was at a show he was performing at, and he said something about like trying to be a coach on Instagram when you haven't even done shit. And I was like, Nah, he's the homie. He's not talking about me. That can't fucking be. But so sometimes it piques the ear. It gets the attention.
Well, those things. I mean, I've known people. I'm not going to say names, where it's like they misinterpreted a diss and they jumped on it, put a response, and it was bad. That was bad for them.
Yeah,
it's like, hey, dude, that's a bad look. What are you doing?
Yeah. Yeah.
So there's a time and a place for sure.
Yeah, for real, man. How I feel like you don't give a fuck about this. How important is writing music that fits current trends?
I mean, it depends what you think a trend is, because everything comes back around.
Okay.
So, like the way that, again, I'm going to keep referencing Billy Woods. I think he's someone who I've got that spark for him. I can't believe it's lasted this long. Normally it doesn't last this long.
I think it was Lee Reed was telling me that he was also really big on Billy Woods.
Yeah, I saw that and I was like, oh man, I just seen Lee, damn, but we should talk about Billy Woods.
Yeah.
But something like that where I'm like the elements of what's popular about that sound that he's doing, and he's a one of one, but similar to Shrapnel or the things Elucid does solo, or Rap Ferreira, or artists in that realm. There's ebbs and flows, and man, I think we're coming to a flow where it's going to be like, wow, I can't believe this song is now on the Billboard top 1. The same way people are saying, I can't believe this Kendrick song is at the top. It's like any Kendrick song could be at the top. You're shocked because it feels like a really different song.
Yeah,
feels like, this Alchemist production. Mustard's on the one I've been talking about, but the other track, it's like Alchemist has an album with Arm & Hammer, Billy Woods and Elucid. Like, these circles are tiny. Factor's got a song with Exhibit's due for when we're going to be like obsessed with him again. Yeah. Hopefully it's not when he dies, but the way these things work, that's like a lot of the way we're going to see some of these artists get their shine finally,
Yeah, man. I mean, Exhibit definitely got his shine,
totally, without a doubt.
Yeah, but I feel like he stepped back. He did the whole Pimp Your Ride thing, and then I feel like he was just like, okay, I'm good for a while. I think he did put out an album somewhat recently, but yeah, who knows who's going to come back. Dog Pound Gang has a new album coming out, right? Their new single is dope as fuck. So yeah, you never know. Snoop has got to be coming up on 60 or whatever the fuck.
Exactly. Well, and it's like seeing Freestyle Fellowship get nominated for a Grammy in like the last 2 years. It's like, or Ava DuVernay is like making these huge films. Like these degrees of separation are minuscule, especially like when you boil it down to that independent hip hop.
Yeah.
And so, Cadence Weapon wins Polaris. Does that change the scene? Like, again, these ideas of gatekeepers is like, I'm kind of waiting for someone with an obvious gate I could go fucking bang on.
I feel like the people that decide who gets the grants, those are as close to like gatekeepers as we have in Canadian hip hop, really. I feel like, the only money anybody's making is from those guys. So they decide who gets on. And once you start getting those grants, CBC talks to you 3 times a year. Like, you get the write-ups.
The granting agency expects you to be hiring a publicist.
Right.
The album rollout's probably not going to look good if you aren't hiring a publicist. And that's the kind of stuff I'm learning where it's like, okay, so a publicist, you need to have the album ready 6 months out and all this stuff.
Yeah.
It's like, you have to try to engage with it a bit to like learn how that stuff works. So I guess I'm uncovering my knowledge of more of these gatekeepers. You're totally right.
Right. How important is a manager? Or, double that with publicist. Yeah. Same kind of deal.
I mean, I would say they're very important. I am my own manager, but I recognize like how much work I'm doing that doubles as artist and manager. You know what I mean? Planning, organizing, promoting a whole entire tour for myself as well as another act. So there being like this crossover between some of these roles when you aren't hiring people, but knowing how defined those roles are. So I think a manager would be super important if the stage is right for you. Steven Hero talked about leveling up through a manager, and it's like, I see that and I'm like, yes. And then I see Mickey say, Long and McQuaid's done more for Canadian artists than granting agencies. And I'm like, yeah, also, so listening to all these perspectives and knowing like they're all just tools. Renting a mic from Long and McQuaid is not that different from getting a grant. It's not that different from buying yourself an interface to be able to record. These are all when there's barely any infrastructure, that is the infrastructure.
Yeah, dude,
you're building it right now.
There's a lot of artists who are able to do it themselves, at least to a degree. Like this morning, dude, I opened up booking for Fly Information interviews through June.
Mm-hmm.
I booked 9 interviews in an hour. Just through Instagram, just messaging people on Instagram, people who had been hitting me for the last couple months being like, yo, when can we do an interview? I finally this morning was like, we can do it in June. These are the dates. First come, first serve. And like, I sent the call out to, I think 13 or 14 people. And within an hour was telling people like, nope, sorry, they're all gone. Maybe in July or whatever. Like, we'll see what happens. So, I think as long as people are on top of it and like willing to answer their phone when it dings, it's possible. The internet makes a lot of that possible to self-manage or whatever, but it might not be good enough to get you the CBC coverage that some people manage to get with their grant money on publicists or whatever.
We'll see. I mean, you can always just make your fake exclaim screenshot and people are going to respond the same way to your Instagram story when you do that, if it's real or if it's not.
True enough, man. Yeah. I've never checked anybody's, if they're right up, if it's actually there on the sites or whatever. You see the screenshot. Yeah, it's real. Look at them go. Dude, how important is paid advertising?
I've really been doing it lately. And was that something where people were saying on the tour, oh, I came because of Instagram? No, but I was seeing engagement. And I mean, I know what it's like to not go to a show. And I know what it's like to be like, oh, this artist has now been here 3 times and you finally go.
Yeah.
And I think like paid advertising is actually much more the long game. There's the short game, getting your views up on your reels on Instagram because you promoted it for a bit. And especially being able to target places. And so one thing I found from doing paid advertising is I got a lot of messages from rappers or DJs. Hey, do you need a DJ for the show? Can I open the show?
And you were like, fuck no, DJ. Get out of here.
It's like the show's booked and advertised. You don't maybe know that. Maybe this would be your first show.
Yeah.
There was artists that I chose to be like, I want you to play the show. It's their first show. And I'm like doing that because I believe in this artist. So like seeing how there's the role of thinking what advertising does for like your stature, but also like thinking like, man, I want to be able to have someone message me, hey, I want to play Winnipeg. I see that you play Winnipeg. And me be able to do the show and know that people are going to come to it because I can put two local artists on and it doesn't have to be me.
Yeah.
So I'm seeing paid advertising maybe play a bit more of a role right now for building my management and tour booking side of things that is part of being an independent rapper in the way I experience it.
The long game, building brand recognition, basically, like so that when people, like you said, when they see you coming through town several times over, they go, oh yeah, I've recognized that guy's name over the past few years.
How many people know who Robbie G is?
Dude's always like, on tour. Does he even have a home, or like is he just on a tour bus? Man,
and then I see like he's got Robbie G booking, and he's like doing booking wherein he's not always on the tours now. He used to always kind of be on the tours, and now Chaos is going out and he's playing Brandon, and it's like, man, I want to cultivate Brandon. Let me get on the Chaos show. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So once you start to do that stuff, you also start to notice, like, game recognize game.
Yeah.
You start to play the game. You start to do grants or pay attention to it. You start to see just how many people are rocking and rolling off grants,
For real, man. Okay, so I got two more of these how important questions that I want to put to you, and then we can wrap this up because we're already over time. I appreciate you talking to me, man. It's been fun. But so you kind of touched on this, but I just want to hear it in a more, concise way. But how important is listening to the classics and the legends of hip hop?
I think it's just as important as listening to contemporary artists. Okay. Meaning to say, it's important to listen to hip hop. And it's important to expand those horizons and recognize that there's maybe somebody doing something today that's a lot more similar to what you're doing than you would ever expect. And there's somebody 30 years ago doing that thing too,
Yeah, man. I feel like there's a lot of new artists who get into hip hop and they think that they're like a really unique snowflake, and they just haven't done what you were just talking about, like, and expanded their catalog of music that they know to a degree to know that, like, oh no, there's guys making music pretty similar to that across the board.
Yeah. It's like nobody's ever talked about Manitoba on a rap track until me. It's like, Winnipeg's most would like a word with you.
Yeah. There's been people around doing it for 30 years at least, I'm sure. Like,
yeah, exactly.
How important, so this is for producers, how important is the gear for producing? Your selection of gear?
Like the newness or whatever, I don't think there's any importance to that, but it's important for you to be engaging with it. Being curious about the gear, I used to really be like learning it just enough to make it work.
Right.
And that's a real like instrument approach. But some of these things, they are instruments, but they are a lot more technological than what I'm used to being a drummer.
Right.
So it's like, figure out what these things do because it's going to expand your sound. So the gear is important because you want to have some sort of a working relationship with it. They're tools, again. Being able to write an okay paragraph to explain what your tour is going to do. I want to understand what it means to tweak a low pass or, be able to recreate sounds that I'm hearing and have a language for it.
Yeah. That's super real, man. I feel like there's a lot of people who kind of like pick up an MPC, say, and they learn how to use it to a level where they can like chop a sample and assign it to the pads and drum them in there. Mm-hmm. But like, there's all sorts of menus that they're probably never touching. There's effects and filters and all that just stay completely over there while they just do what they know how to do on their MPC. And yeah, it's probably wise to pull out the manual or hit YouTube or whatever it takes to figure out the actual intricacies of it.
Limitation does breed creativity, but you have to be aware of the limitations in some ways, especially when it comes to gear. Like if you know that you're doing it janky, that's okay, but just be aware that there's these other processes, and those are usually the key to a level up as far as production's concerned. Like I've got a beat battle coming up, and that's really me stepping into the producer side super heavy.
Is that the first one you've ever done?
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
So
And speaking of diss tracks, I'm like, do I know who I'm going against first round? I'm like, do I make a diss beat?
find
Sound
some
off in the
samples.
comments. Should I make a diss beat? Should I like jack their producer tag or something like that?
I vote yes. I vote you find samples of small children saying things on YouTube
yeah.
to diss them with, yeah, or something like that. Dude, so I guess I appreciate your time, but we should wrap this thing up. So, can you name some other artists? Not necessarily even from Winnipeg. You've named a few from Winnipeg already, but just other artists who people should be up on. It sounds like you're really tapped into the Canadian hip hop scene more so than a lot of people are. For sure.
I try to be. I mean, people we've already talked about, catch those names, but Francesca Wexler, rapper out of Toronto, brought her on the show there, and they absolutely killed it. Incredible live, really good hooky stuff.
Nice.
Some more pop leaning, but really great. Othman, they're a producer. They just put out an album called The Vital Breath. Really doing some cool stuff they've got a little crew in Toronto. So if you tap into Othman, you'll get tapped in everyone else.
Nice.
Naz is a MC they work with. They also played the show.
Naz, like how do you spell? Are there two S's on that, or
it's known as, I guess, is the full name, but Nonazz.
Okay, all right.
So Secret Scriptures is their like crew. So there's a few different people in that. And then out here, like Mookie, he's a rapper in Winnipeg who's really dope. 1122, who I already mentioned from here in Winnipeg.
And I've got homework to do. I don't play any of these people's music. I'll have to tap in.
Yeah. Another would be Geronimo. He's who we played with in Kenora. Really great First Nations rapper. He just put out a song called "It's My Land." Got some amazing hooks. Like really
his
doing
music.
Cool
I feel
stuff.
like I've seen him around. Yeah, seen his music out there. Yeah.
He's one of the few people we played with who was like around my age or maybe older, been doing it for a while.
Right.
Yeah, man. I mean, I could keep going, but I think
that's a pretty good list, man.
Those are some of the key ones for me.
Especially with the rest of the interview, you shouted out all sorts of people. I appreciate that, man. It's all about spreading love. Any plans for shows or tours or, I don't know, fun releases or anything that we can tell people to watch out for in the future?
So I'm in the Winnipeg Beat Battle, June 15th. That's at XQ's Bar and Lounge. I'm I think going to be the last battle of round one. So I am just like, I've got some heaters in the chamber.
Yeah.
We were bumping them in the van, testing the beats on tour. And so I've got some approval. I've got some second say. And then July 12th, I'm going to be doing my next Winnipeg show. That's actually going to be an in-store performance at Into the Music, which is a record and CD shop.
Okay.
So I'm looking forward to that, kind of doing something a little bit different. I like playing in, things like boxing rings and stuff. So let's bring it to the record store.
Yeah.
That's about it for now. Like I said, there'll be that album with Can't Sleep coming up in the autumn. But yeah, thanks again for having me on, and props to everything that you're doing, shining a light on these scenes. Thanks, like I said, this is the infrastructure being built in real time, making these connections. Hopefully, we'll see Francesca or Othman on here. I'm really sure Othman would love to be on. So tap into that and see what you think. There's so much great Canadian hip hop. So thanks for everything you do.
It's true, man. I appreciate it. You ever coming out to Alberta? Have you ever played out here in Alberta?
Yeah, I did Edmonton last April. Would love to do Lethbridge, so I'll definitely let you know when I'm planning that.
For real, man. Yeah, do it. Okay, just one last thing. Where can people find you online, man? What's the best way to support you?
Bandcamp is where the most of my music is. That's where you can decide to pay for it, but pretty much everything on there is free. If you just want to download, you can also get some merch on there. And then Instagram, K.Kitz. I'm also on TikTok under Prairie Rap. And then whatever streaming service you use, some of my stuff is on there, but I am discriminating against the streamers, so you're not getting the full picture. I'm sorry.
Check the Bandcamp.
Yeah, exactly. Bandcamp is ground zero, and then splinter out from there.
Beautiful, man. All right. Well, all love, bless up, man. Appreciate you doing this, and I will catch you next time.
Right on. Miigwech, Nawagoa.
Peace. Oh. Okay, everybody, so thanks for hanging out for that. I had a good time talking to Kitz. You should definitely check out his music. He's got a ton of it online. Like you said, Bandcamp is the best way to support him or other artists you know. The streaming platforms don't pay people. You've probably heard me go on about that if you've ever been here before, but that's an important thing to tell people who may not be initiated to that idea yet. You got to do more than just stream people's music to support them. Hit like, hit share, all that good stuff. If you want to help support the show after the smoke is clear, is the weekly mix show that DJ Dice and I put together. I do my best to tap into all these artists that these artists I'm talking to tell me about, and you know, play the stuff I like the most every week. Dice does a great job mixing stuff, and we're rolling right along through season 5 of that. Upcoming for Fly In Formation is JRoberts. I'm talking to him May 21st. Toronto-based MC who's been doing a lot of work with a lot of different MCs lately. May 28th, I'm talking to Roshin. And like I told Kitz, I do have interviews booked all through June. It's going to be busy. I'm doing 2 a week through June, and then I'm probably going to take at least July off to kind of just cool down and, well, sit on a beach someplace. Maybe I won't be too cooled down, but to relax a little bit. So we'll see if I come back August or September, but one way or the other, the June schedule will be up soon. You can find me on all the socials, Doobyis, if you're just listening to the audio version of this. And yeah, appreciate everybody coming by. Doobyis.com is the hub for everything that I do. Peace.